Couple of things that I have for announcements, but we'll let Dave go first with section and ARRL related, please.
Nothing that we haven't covered already. Let's see, we have the next Red Cross drill, which I'm sure Bob will talk about, is coming up here soon. And March 13th, 14th, we have the QSO Today virtual Hamfest. So a couple things coming up here in the very near future.
Very good. Thank you. Rob, good morning. Announcements?
Bruce, good morning. Nothing for me. Thank you.
Okay. A few general items. I would, as a learning experience, I would take advantage of the good weather that we have. If you have routine maintenance that you need to do for your station, or anything that you've been putting off that's been deferred for maintenance, get it taken care of. I've had an intermittent problem that I've really just not paid attention to, and I'll tell you the quick story about this. The story goes something like, when I'm on 15 meters, I would occasionally see the receive signal drop significantly from S5 to S9 signals, going almost all the way down to zero. Still hear people, but not hear them at the signal strength that they should be, and very clearly muted. And it was the type of effect that you would have if you had someone else on the same band with you, and you had someone maybe even on an alternate band, and the interference, if you will, was knocking down the perceived signal strength on your radio. Turns out that wasn't the case. Turns out that wasn't the case at all. And in fact, because it got so much worse, it became a question mark about what was happening. And I was absolutely sure it wasn't my coax going to my gap Eagle, which is a multi-band vertical antenna. I was absolutely sure it couldn't be the antenna itself, because nothing was changing in the load of the antenna or the match or the SWR, if you will. Absolutely nothing was changing with respect to any of the other dynamics. So I'm sitting here doing my best to figure out what was happening, and I realized that, okay, maybe I've got to take that antenna down and take a look at it. But then again, it's a gap Eagle, it's a multi-band antenna, it covers at least 7 bands, and I realized that the problem that I'm having is only on 15 meters. So long and the short of it is that we figured out, and we believe that we've narrowed down on my side, that all of the wind that we've had for the last couple of years, and maybe in particular the last big windstorm that we had, with all the bending, flexing, and blowing around of the big antenna, because it does blow around a little bit, I've got something that's loose up at the top. What's really interesting, though, is the design of the antenna apparently doesn't cause you to have any of the normal indicators of something wrong like that, because the match doesn't change. The match of the antenna and how it's made doesn't change or do anything else, and the radio is fine on other bands. Everything else is fine with the antenna on other bands. So I've got to go out and take an antenna down and specifically look at the connections to a single element. So fun times. In COVID related news, there does not appear to be any hospital related spring drill that's currently scheduled. The hospitals may themselves be doing what they're going to call a tabletop exercise, but to be honest, I wouldn't expect it. There isn't any drive from the state or the federal government to do this. There's no reimbursement, in other words. So they're not doing it for certification purposes. They've got to buy on it. But in the fall, there's apparently a plan to go out and have a fall drill. Having said that, they don't know what the timing of that will be. The expectation with current circumstances is that it will be a tabletop exercise. And if that's true, shy of sending monitors or individual participants to go out and watch what's happening, probably not going to be a lot of play for us. The proposal for the drill, as it sometimes happens, is a little bit of an arm wrestling match. Trying to be polite in how I say that. The discussion was that it'll be OES driven as opposed to being state or federal. It'll be OES driving this. And as you might not be surprised, that means that it will probably be a terrorist related event or drill is what the proposal is. And they're talking about it being a mass service outage, specifically power. So if that happens, that might be the scenario. That's what's being proposed. The hospitals on the other side of that coin are really, really wanting to drill based upon previous exercises they've done around an earthquake scenario. And that's what they want. So the hospitals want to do something more elaborate, building on previous experience with an earthquake drill. OES seems to be driving in the direction of a terrorist event with a power outage. So as we get closer, if it does occur, we will make sure we keep everybody updated. For the sake of our group, I would expect to plan for our own individual drill if the hospital system and the county does not do so. So we will stage our own event. We will stage a rollout, call out type of event as long as it is safe to do so. So that'll be on the plans, that'll be on the books. And if we've got folks that want to work from home and not do something external or remote, we will make sure that there are accommodations and opportunities to go out and participate in that manner. In other news, and I'm not holding my breath on this, but there are dates that are currently on the books for the Miramar Air Show. And that would be September 24th, 25th, and 26th. I have to be really honest. I'm not expecting it to happen, but they've at least penciled in the dates. So we'll see what happens with that. Any questions? And if not, we'll continue on and we'll roll into our presentation this morning.
All right, I have one more thing here. If you would please change your name to put your call sign in there so we know who people are. We have a couple in here that do not have a call sign there. And, it'd be nice to know who all is at the meeting. So we can sort of keep track of it. If you don't know how to do it, if you click on the list of participants and find your name and go to more, you'll be able to rename yourself and get your call sign in there. We'd appreciate it. Also, during the presentation, if we have any questions for Bob during the drill or after the drill, stick them in chat or raise your hand. And if you stick them in chat, put a Q in front of it so we know that it is a question and we don't actually skip right over it. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully there are a lot of questions for Bob and we'll see what we can do with that. Bob, it's all yours. I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody and you'll have to unmute yourself to get things going. So Bob, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, I think I've unmuted. Looks like
oh, Bob, you are muted.
You started out unmuted and then you.
all right. How's that? That better?
That's
Yes.
better.
Yep, I hit the wrong button when I was moving around here. All right, so I'm going to do a quick screen share here. Everybody can see the screen there. See my slide.
Yes.
All right, perfect. I'm going to be talking about the American Red Cross disaster services technology as just part of this presentation. And as you see, I highlighted a couple of areas there: the D, the S, and the T. So we shortened it to say DST. And with that, we do a lot of disaster service technology stuff that's related to computers and all other types of technology that's involved in disaster relations. So first off, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Red Cross mission and the vision and stuff. So the mission of the Red Cross is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. Most of the people responding to national disasters, local disasters, are volunteers. We have a good core of volunteers that are willing to give up their spare free time and travel to not so exotic places at times to help those who are in need. So what is the vision? The vision is the American Red Cross, through a strong network of volunteers, donors, partners, is always there in times of need. And we aspire to turn compassion into action so that all people affected by disasters across the country and around the world receive care, shelter, and hope. And our communities are ready and prepared for disasters. So what does that mean? We send people from San Diego to Florida, to Texas, to other places around the world to assist other regions, other states in helping with their disasters. We also have a international Red Cross set up to where we actually can help people on the international side of things as well. A lot of you may know we also offer all types of preparedness classes, from first aid, CPR, to disaster preparedness for what you should have in case of a disaster around your house. In the region. So we have all kinds of different things going on there. And then we also work to make sure everyone in the country has access to safe, life-saving blood and blood products. And we also have a service to armed forces. All members of our armed forces and their families find support and comfort whenever needed. And in an emergency, Red Cross is there with trained individuals to, help those save lives and assist those in time of need. So that's the kind of the mission and the vision. What we have in the Red Cross is multiple programs. We have our health and safety program. We have our blood services. We have the service to armed forces. And in the state of California, we manage the Women, Infant, and Children program, which is called WIC, which provides nutrition for new mothers and newborns. And it's actually a federal program that we manage here for the state of California. And as I mentioned, we have international services. So we send resources. We have sent people on international assignments around the world to assist countries in time of need. Then we have our disaster preparedness classes. And then the thing I want to talk about is disaster services. That's where people hear most of the things the Red Cross is out and doing. So in disaster services, specifically disaster services technology is what I represent. I'm not going to go into all the other things that are in our disaster cycle services, like mass care, information and planning, sheltering, all these other things that we do in a disaster. It's like a small company actually operating with mostly volunteers. In disaster services technology, what is our responsibilities? Our responsibilities are for setting up communications. Now, a lot of people think communications is solely radio. Honestly, we haven't used a lot of radio in our operations lately. We did send out during the fires last summer, we did have some operators go out with the disaster assessment teams who were going out and verifying damages to different people's houses. And those were out in the backcountry, and we sent a radio operator for their safety to protect them and the other folks that were traveling out there. But there's more than that. We basically are responsible for setting up the conduits of communications. Basically, that includes the transmitting of information, both data and voice. It could be by telephones or facsimile, via radio, or even setting up satellite transmissions if the need arises. And we used to be the custodian of a satellite dish from Viasat here at our chapter, but recently the national organization signed a different contract with a different satellite vendor, and we don't we no longer have that satellite dish locally here in San Diego. So all those would come out of our national resource center that is currently located in Atlanta, Georgia. So beyond just the communications, we also are responsible for computer operations. And this is where we have spent most of our time supporting the organization here recently. And that is setting up computers so that the volunteers at our temporary evacuation points or shelters are able to communicate via email, or fill out forms and fill information up to the national sheltering system, just to make sure that we are able to give effective delivery to disaster victims. And I know one of your volunteers here, Fred KG6RGI, he actually helped set up computers at a couple of the TEPs here in San Diego during the wildfires last summer. So this is where we're setting up most of our operations, is in the computer world. It's kind of where things are going. We also set up networking. We have set up several laptop kits that have cradle point routers in them. And then they have a wireless access point that allows us to extend the Wi-Fi signal in large buildings. Again, we have a small setup of computers and laptop kits here, but if we needed additional equipment, we have a large resource, again, at our national operations center. Most of the time, we are responsible for the first 72 hours here locally in supporting a disaster. After that, then the resources can start flowing in. Just the time that it takes to order the equipment and get the equipment here takes about 72 hours. After everything is in and set up and operational, and we're running on a normal day-to-day type of setup, then we have a group called customer service. This customer service group, they're responsible for tracking all the equipment. So if somebody says, I need a cell phone, or I need a laptop, or I need whatever their situation may be, this technology-wise, we have to maintain the records, because after this disaster is all over with, we need to recover all that equipment and test it, and then send it back to the national headquarters facility to be prepared for the next disaster. So the customer service group is not only responsible for maintaining and capturing all equipment, but they're also the help desk. So if somebody says, hey, I can't log into my computer, or I can't download this program, or I can't do such and such, then we have a customer service team that goes out and ensures that they're capable of using the equipment that we gave them effectively. And that could be in a operation center, or it could be out in the field. We have had people that have gone out on national disaster assignments, start out at one location, and then a few days later, they're totally in a different location, doing a different job within DST. So, you could be a communicator, setting up communications channels, and then turn around and be customer service, later on when things start to stabilize. What do we have available for DST? This is all stuff that's available at our resource center, again in Atlanta. All kinds of business band radios, satellite dishes, hotspots, cell phones. We have IP phones, satellite phones. We've got a big cache of stuff that gets sent out. And we have an opportunity to request this from the national organization if something becomes bigger than a bread box. Like I said, we have a small cadre of equipment here, and we'll place an order and they get on it. And it's usually here within about 48, 72 hours, again, depending upon the day of the week and the FedEx shipments times and things like that. So it's a great resource to have. And we've used a lot of this equipment on a lot of the major disasters. We've actually requested equipment and had it shipped here last year during the summer when we exceeded what we had and needed additional equipment. We placed the order and then they shipped it out. We have a great relationship with FedEx, and they actually donate a lot of the shipping of the equipment around the world. So kudos to FedEx. Now, for San Diego Imperial County's chapter, we are now a part of a large region. We used to be the San Diego Imperial County's region, and we were the San Diego chapter. Well, now it's changed, and there's a lot of consolidation going on, trying to do some cost savings, and we are now what we call the Southern California region. The Southern California region is Orange County, Riverside County, San Bernardino, San Diego, and Imperial counties now make up the Southern California region. So we're working more and more with our folks up in the other chapters and getting more and more working relationships in the way of communications as well. We still hold our nets on Tuesdays. We have moved our nets over to the PAPA system off of the RACES system lately. And we do hold a DMR net. We're looking to make some changes with our DMR net. So the folks up in Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino can participate in our nets going forward. And so a lot of you have seen this communications trailer, which is my next topic on the agenda here. So we still have it. It's still operational, and every Wednesday, Fred, KI6GRO, and Danny, KD6OKR, they go into chapter and check in on the CalEMA net. And when they're there, after they're done checking in, they come out and they do some maintenance on the comms trailer to make sure that it's operational if the time, if its need becomes a need to use it becomes a need. So what does it have? It has a 5.5 kW propane generator on the front, and we have 2 propane tanks. And we've tested this with the AC running, with the lights on, with the radios on, and we get approximately 11 to 12 hours of runtime per tank. And it's not an automatic switching system. You have to go over and flip the switch over to the other tank, but that's good because now you know the tank is empty, and then we have to go get a tank filled or borrow people's barbecue tanks or whatever the need may be. We've got quite a few of these at chapter propane tanks there as well, so we can always try and keep the trailer running. Inside there is also a ProSign 2000 watt inverter charger with battery backup. We just recently replaced those batteries, and I don't know the runtime on the batteries. We suspect it's going to be about 12 hours. We have not. Again, it depends upon how much you transmit versus how much receive, as we all know. But we have not tested those down to the point where they're not usable. So I'm not exactly sure how long we have on battery power. This is an old picture of the radios we have in there. We're replacing the 996 Bearcat with a 536 radio, and we removed the Fisher Wireless. The Fisher Wireless system we had for chapter use was, it got expensive, and the budget just didn't support the cost of keeping the Fisher Wireless. And so we took it out, but we are repurposing those. We've done some testing. We've taken some of the HTs and a couple of the mobile radios and taken them, had them converted over to the National has a block of business band frequencies. So we've converted those over to some business band frequencies that the Red Cross National has, and trying to repurpose all the radios that we had. So we're doing some testing on it. Hopefully it'll work out. And then if we get the funding where we can get all those radios reprogrammed, we'll be in great shape on resources for, they're simplex frequencies. They're not tied to any kind of repeaters. Again, another look at what the inside looks like. We've got 2 Toughbook laptops in there. We've got this monitor over in the front there, and that's what we call the data station. So we have a capability of printing things out. It's tied to the tough books that we have in the trailer, and we've converted those to Windows 10. We're trying to keep nursing those along by replacing them with solid state drives and doing some additional memory things. They're older tough books, but we keep doing small improvements or small enhancements to try and keep them going, because don't know that we'll be able to replace those. Funding just isn't there for that type of stuff. Those aren't cheap. Again, the data station, the operational station, we have our 897 on the side. We've got an antenna that we could put like a long wire up off of the mast that's on the front of the trailer. So what do we have? We have our Vertex VHF low band, which is the national frequencies that the Red Cross is assigned nationwide. And so if we have an ERV, which is a feeding vehicle, or any type of national vehicle that comes in from, say we had a major fire here, if we brought in feeding vehicles, they would come with a 4742, and we'd be able to communicate with the vehicles that come in from all over the nation. We have a Vertex 4200 that we had a county frequency in there. They've kind of pulled that back from us at this point in time, but we hopefully will be able to get that back in the future. We have, of course, all the amateur radios and amateur frequencies that we can use. The 4200s, those VX 4200s are really solid radios, and they have the amateur frequencies also in those 4200s. And then we have our Yaesus 8900s. We have our Kenwood 220 radios, the Bearcat 536. We're using the SCS modems. Love them, man. They're expensive, but boy, they are rock solid in getting traffic through. And then we have our Yaesu 897 radio that's in there as well. In our radio room, we have 5 stations in the radio room. Position 1 and position 3 are exactly the same. The radios are the same. The setup to the locations of the radios are the same. So if somebody needed to move from position 1 to position 3, they could do that and not skip a beat. Position 2, which is right in between them, is our HF station that we use for transmitting to the CalEMA net. And then over on position 4, that's what we consider our data station. That's where we have the gateway that we have set up there at Chapter. We've got the scanner for monitoring, and then that computer would also be tying into the county system to try and see what's going on and figure out what is happening, and then feeding that information back to our Chapter Disaster Operations Center. And then we've also put in another HF radio there. We had one that was donated, so we actually have 2 HF radios now in the radio room, tied to 2 different dipole antennas. But then position 5 is kind of like the supervisor position. It has all the other radios that the other stations have, but then it has the 47, 42 radio in there, and a couple of others that support the operation, and they could step in and take over. If one of the stations got overloaded with traffic, they could step in and handle it on one of the other radios. So like I said, we have 3 operator stations, and those 2 are duplicates. And then we have 2 HF positions, and then we have our digital disaster assessment station, and then we have the comms lead location in the radio room. Again, these are the radios that are in the radio room. Same thing, we pretty much have a duplicate of what's in the comms trailer. It matches with what the radio room also has. Now, most of you have seen our Go kits, because you have borrowed and used our Go kits in the past. So what happens is we decided when we were building these Go kits, we decided that we needed to keep them at a weight that most people could handle. So our goal was not to have anything greater than 40 pounds. The biggest, heaviest was, of course, the battery box, the power box. And we're slowly converting all those power boxes over to the Bieno LiFo batteries, so that again, we could take additional weight off and get, you know, better more user time out of the batteries. That's made a big difference. We have 6 of those that have been converted so far. We're going to convert 6 more this year, and then hopefully just continue to do 6 a year until they're all done, and even keep the cycle going of 6 every year, so that we can replace the batteries every 6 years, even on the ones that we've already done. They need to be modular. They need to be infrastructure independent. We need to be able to have multi-mode capable, and they need to be easy to set up and deploy in any location, and, you know, maximum flexibility. And our goal was just to be able to cover San Diego and Imperial counties at the time, but now we know that we can go much further than that with the equipment that we have. So we have VHF and HF radios. We have different Go kits. We can do Pactor 1, 2, 3. We have PSK 31. We can do Winmore, Packet, WinLink, and 2-meter SSB, and then crossband repeat out of the Go kits. We just recently were applied for and received a shares license. And so we have a shares station, and we have modified some of our 897s to be able to transmit on shares. And we'll be doing that out of the chapter. But we also want to put some of those in Go kits, and then design and build a different antenna so that we can communicate on shares out in the field as well. So if we're at a shelter or some other location outside of you know, the headquarters, if, let's say, for example, the building was not usable in the middle of an earthquake, if we lost the capability of using our headquarters, we would move out into, you know, the field, and we'd like to be able to still be able to communicate using the shares network. So we're going to build some shares capabilities into our Go kits. In the HF module, this is what we basically have in the HF modules: the Yaesu 897 with the FP30 power supply, the SCS modem. We have a backup with a SignalLink USB sound card interface. Again, the SCS, you know, really outperforms anything. We have the SG230 smart tuner, and then we have in our kits the uplog periodic, a tri-band, and then we have do-it-yourself HF wire that we string between 2 painter's poles, and then we have netbook computers. The netbook computers are basically in the building, not stored in the actual kits themselves, because we keep those charged and powered up. In the VHF module kits, we basically have the Yaesu FT8900, the power supply. We have the Contronics KPC3 Plus, and computer long periodic antenna, and then the Comm tri-band antenna. We have HT modules, and this is what's in the HT modules as well. We use the HTs for short distance communications within a shelter or around a facility, mostly probably on simplex, although they do work with we've got it designed where we can put a VHF antenna on a painter's pole, and they can walk around with the painter's pole, get it up, you know, a little bit higher, and transmit using HT if we didn't have anything else. You know, the power modules, we did have an AGM 35 amp batteries. We're switching those over to 20 amp hour Bieno batteries. and we had the Supergate charger, and we're using the Biono charger that comes with the Biono battery. So we're kind of in a hybrid mode right now. And then the power supply, and then a rig runner for distribution to the different equipment that we want to connect them to. So you can see we're slowly working over to this LiFo batteries. Definitely a much better option, and certainly makes for a much lighter kit. We have staged one HF kit out in Imperial Valley, and we have staged one VHF kit out in Imperial Valley as well. So we have the capability of communicating between Imperial Valley and San Diego with those kits. This is the group of folks that put it together. You recognize a lot of these people. They've been a part of ARES for years. We had Tom Martin, K6RCW, who left the area and is now living in Texas. He has his glass shop out there, and he had a great facility for building all these kits at one time, and gave us a good working environment. So, you know, he did a great job in helping us get these put together. And what we've done when we were able to meet in person, and hopefully we get to meet in person here again this year, we actually run out and set them up and test them, ask people to, people to turn them on, set up an antenna, transmit voice messages, and then also transmit a WinLink message. And we've done that in the back parking lot, which is what some of these photos are. And we've taken them out into the field. We went over to the Kearney Mesa Rec Center there and set it up one day, and we've done it in parks here in Carlsbad and different parts of the county. Hopefully, when we get back into meeting in persons, we're going to have to start doing this again, because we have not had people use these in quite some time. And if you don't keep testing with them, then of course you lose the knowledge that you have and how to make them work. So we've got a good set of step-by-step instructions on how to set them up and how to operate them. Those were written by Jerry Castro, AK6QJ, but it's better to actually get your hands on them and practice and set them up. So that's going to be one of our first training sessions when we get back together, is going through how to set up and actually operating these, and then have a drill where we place them throughout the county and actually out in Imperial Valley as well, in order to test out the equipment. We do keep some of them locally in our comms trailer so that we can deploy them in a hurry if need be. We have a few others sitting in storage. And then, like I said, we have those out in Imperial Valley. Again, this is a setup in Carlsbad. We did at one of the parks. And again, this, as you can see up in this, here you can see it's just basically two painter poles with the wire strung between them. And this is the setup on a table. I've got a couple of other photos to show you that sometimes it's hard to read the computer screen. So you kind of have to get real friendly and put a towel over your head and try and read the screen. But on top of that, one of the painter poles, we do put the log periodic for 2-meter SSB. We have tested that and it does work. We were able to communicate 2-meter SSB using those from Carlsbad down to our chapter headquarters. So then we have our national equipment. Again, approximately 72 hours, they can get us this satellite equipment in. We switched from Viasat to DirecTV. DirecTV claimed they can have much higher download bandwidth than what Viasat was offering at the time. Not sure that was a good move, because again, my opinion is when the DirecTV, when you're going to be competing with a lot of folks that have DirecTV that might be out in the country, and not have internet service. So I think the Viasat was a much better option. It would seem to be much sturdier, much more robust for field operations. But that's something National decided that they would switch off to. I don't know if there was a price consideration there or if it was just download bandwidth, but we did change vendors. And again, we no longer have that dish here locally at our chapter, which is sad because it's it was a great option to have in case of loss of all the repeater sites or capability. But we'll see what the future holds as we roll out more of these. That was pretty much what I had in a nutshell for what we're doing here locally with the disaster services group here in San Diego or Imperial counties. Again, not speaking totally for the region, just for the county. If you, like I say, if you like to travel to not so exotic places, work 12-hour shifts, but help people in probably some of their darkest moments, the opportunity is there. There's many different opportunities from not only disaster services technology, but huge need for sheltering volunteers right now, strictly because in the COVID world, we can't open up shelters and put 250 people in a gymnasium or 100 people in a gymnasium. What we're doing is placing people in hotel rooms. And we respond to a disaster approximately every 24 hours here in San Diego. And that's home fires, that's flooding in homes or anything where somebody can't stay in their dwelling. We get the call and then we help and take care of the family. But I think a stat that I heard, the Red Cross put people in 1.2 million hotel rooms were reserved for people by the Red Cross in the last year, strictly because of the COVID environment. And if we ran out of hotel rooms, then we would have to put shelters open, but it would be in a much reduced capacity. So instead of saying we could put 100 people in the shelter, maybe we put 25. And because of the need for all of these setting up of hotels with rooms, it's like during the wildfires in 2020, we actually had people in 6 different hotels in San Diego area, and then the fires up in Riverside, we had people in hotels up there as well. Well, each one of those hotels, we have like a shelter worker that kind of monitors what's going on. And then we provide feeding, meals, and other type of services to the folks. So that's put a big stress on our sheltering team. So if you have any kind of experience in helping mass numbers of people, you'd be a great asset to helping our sheltering group. But it's a great opportunity to serve the community outside of just amateur radio. Again, we haven't used a lot of amateur radio in the past, but we do continue to train. We do continue to test all of our equipment. And when the time does come, then we will be ready to deploy and set up and operate with the equipment we have. So beyond that, any questions?
Yeah, we have a couple here, Bob.
Sure.
One, have you guys tested Vera HF or FM to see if it's a viable backup to Pactor?
We've been playing with that. I've actually, set up my station here. The problem we've seen is, at least that I've seen, it being up here in Oceanside, the only station that I've been able to reach and not reliably is the one in Tijuana. So it's always been a challenge for me to get something on the VHF, VARA. HF VARA, it's worked okay for me, but I haven't had a lot of great success yet we still continue to work with it. And yes, our goal is to roll out VARA, in the future.
Okay. Another question is the shares license just for the chapter, or is that for the region?
That's tied to the chapter. In talking with Steve, I started this conversation with Steve last year, and Steve Waterman, which I think he did a presentation for you last month. And my goal is and I'm kind of pushing this for the whole division, which would be, Alaska, Northern California, Washington, Oregon, Hawaii. I'm trying to get all of our regions having at least a shares license. But yeah, the shares license is to our chapter. We have a shares license. Orange County has a shares license in their facility, and there's a few others, but it's not prevalent across all of the Red Cross. And that's something I'm trying to push for, because it opens up a whole new window of opportunities for transmitting messages on frequencies that well, as you well know, are not commonly available to most radio operators. And it gives us the opportunity to have an individual who is not an amateur radio operator also be capable or able to utilize the radio in teams. And the fact you can send encrypted messages over shares is a huge benefit as well. So yeah, that chapter license is just for our license. And I don't know if any of you have read their Form 1, but they're very protective and very strict about what you share and don't share about shares. So
Correct. Correct. All right, if you'd want to stop sharing your screen, speaking of sharing, and let's see, is there an opportunity? What's the opportunity for people in ARES to join ARC?
Well, there's nothing really, it's basically you can reach out to me at my email at bob.birch, that's BIRCH 3 at redcross.org. And I can help you through the process, or you can go to the website, just the Red Cross website, click, put a Red Cross /San Diego, and then click on volunteer, and it would take you to a spot where you can fill out some paperwork. And it's really simple. It's not hard. There is a lot of training that we've gone virtual now with most of the training, as most places have. But it's really simple. If you got your amateur radio license, that helps us build our core. We know that we're going to be reaching out to ARES, when the time comes. We know that if something major happens in San Diego, we don't have all the resources we would need to support a major operation. So we're going to be leaning on ARES to support. I know you support the hospitals, but we would hope that you'd have a few operators to send our way if the need arises. But if you want to do something more than just radio, we've got those opportunities.
All right. Do you use any mesh networks?
We do have a node at chapter. We have the Arden that we've got set up. We have actually built with Andre a portable setup where we could go to a shelter, set up a mesh dish, point it towards one of the nodes, and if we can't hit the node, we actually built a repeater type system where you would put a dish on top of a hill, point it towards the mesh network, and then you could take the other antenna and point it down towards the direction of the shelter and connect into the mesh network that way. So we've got that. My goal this year is to add Arden to the comms trailer love to put a antenna on there in some way. Give us additional capabilities. We've got the equipment. It's just getting the time and that to and being able to go do it. We're kind of restricted in our building right now because of COVID. So we go in every now and then, but we don't have a lot of folks going into chapter right now.
All right, let's see here. Do you have anybody who assigns ARES volunteers to function your chapter shares radios, or do you using strictly existing ARC volunteers?
Right now, we're just using ARC volunteers. With Bruce, WA6DNT has been authorized by the Red Cross to communicate on shares from his home because of the restricted into the chapter facility. So we did give him authorization, and we just programmed all of his radio with the new fleet map with the shares frequency. So he's going to start checking into the shares network for us. Once we're allowed to, be in the building more, then we'll start communicating on shares. We do have an antenna problem with a power cable. We think with a 2R tuner that kind of gives us a problem with one of our antennas that would allow us to communicate on shares. But our goal is to start doing all that out of chapter. And right now we're just using ARC DST volunteers. We're not even opening it up to regular ARC volunteers who are not amateur radio operators at this point in time.
Okay. What cross-agency communications process exists for, let's say, utilities, DHS, FEMA, and so on?
I'm sorry, say again?
What cross-agency communications capabilities do you have with, say, the utility companies, Department of Homeland Security, FEMA?
Well, we have, of course, we're very tight and close with FEMA because we're a part of the national sheltering system. So the shares would be our communication between the different federal organizations. We like all of you, we would communicate on amateur between the county. For SDG&E and the power companies, we don't really have any kind of radio type of communications between those folks. Most of it is, although we do have two former Red Cross regional disaster officers who are now employees of SDG&E, so maybe we can work that out in the future. Now, two of our regional disaster operation officers took jobs with SDG&E because they made more money.
Okay. Do you know what the relative latency and throughputs are for the Viasat and DirecTV for data?
I had that. I don't remember. I got it in a document somewhere. The problem we had with the Viasat actually worked very well, but there was a challenge with bandwidth. So if we had a major disaster operations center set up like we did during the 2007 wildfires, we actually ended up having to set up 3 of the Viasat satellite dishes in order to support the operations center because we just couldn't generate enough bandwidth, and the latency was very high. So we just kept setting up more satellite dishes until we got to the point where it was manageable. And again, somebody at National got convinced to switch. I know Viasat is increasing their bandwidth. They're opening it up actually to private individuals. You can actually get a Viasat retail version of it now and pay like $50 a month for their downloads and so forth. So I just don't know if it was a good move because when you do the direct TV, you're competing with everybody that has the direct TV internet, whereas the Viasat was pretty restrictive on who had access to it. But the latency was high. That's why we kept having to set up multiple dishes in order to get enough bandwidth to make it workable.
Okay. That's all the questions that I see in chat, and I don't see anybody have any hands up. So are there any additional questions for Bob this morning? No, I don't see anything popping up. Bob, thank you very much. Good presentation. I think we all picked up a little bit of additional good information this morning. Bruce, you have anything else?
Nothing additional on my side. Thank you very much for today's presentation, sir.
All right, Rob, do you have anything?
Nothing else. Bob, thanks for joining us.
Anytime. And like I say, if you want to just do something other than radio as well, you're always welcome.
All right, sounds very good. Thanks, Bob. We'll go ahead and close this down for this morning and say thank you, everybody. And we will see what we come up with for next week. I don't. Let's see. Next week is the WinLink Gateway on the cheap, so that should be a good presentation and help anybody out that wants to get into WinLink. Thanks everybody for being there.
I see somebody asked for my email address again. I'll just type it in the chat there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have a hand up, Paul.
I put it in there already.
You
in the
had
chat.
mentioned at the very beginning of today's presentation about a Red Cross drill coming up sometime in the future. Any estimation as to when that's going to be held?
You know what that is? I think it's the 8th.
May
8th of
May.
8th.
May 8th?
You're talking the WinLink drill, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Oh, WinLink.
Yeah, it's a WinLink drill. Hopefully, when we can start getting back together and meeting, I'd love to have a training session, a drill locally here, not just WinLink, but an actual radio drill. If you're all up to it or willing to jump in, I know.
Absolutely.
You spend time with the hospital group and such, but that WinLink drill, basically what you have is that's a group of Red Cross volunteers who are making sure that amateur radio is considered to be a viable option for the National Red Cross. I know there's been emails floating around, and there was a CEO of one of the regions up in the Northwest that said they don't need the amateur radio anymore, and that created conflict and stirred up a bunch of stuff. That is not the Nationals' stance on amateur radio. We know we will need them. They know that it's a viable option for providing communications when all else fails. So this group of individuals are basically doing it on their own to show the Red Cross the viability of what amateur radio and WinLink can do. It's not a Red Cross sponsored event, but it's an opportunity to show what we can do when the need arises.
All right, very good. Anything else this morning? All right, thanks everybody. And Bob, when you get ready to set up a drill, let me know, and we'll get a bunch of people to help you.
Yep, appreciate it.
All right, sounds good. Thanks everybody, and we'll go ahead and close this meeting and say 73, be safe, and see everybody soon.
Take care.
See y'all.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, everybody.